What up, nerds? Welcome back to another exciting, thrilling episode of Hey Archer, episode 173 here on my channel. Thank you for all of those of you who are listening on Monday or Tuesday, whenever this comes out. And of course, thanks for watching if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. And I want you guys to be part of the conversation as well. So comment down below your thoughts on everything we talk about today. Hit us up on social media. Special guests, of course, friend of the show, Mr. Aaron Waller. Welcome back to Hey Archer. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm doing pretty good. Same stuff, different day. Trying to get back into videos, but I'm excited to be on your channel that I've been following fairly religiously lately. So,
and of course, big fan of yours. As I told everybody, go to your channel to watch the. See, this new camera setup has me confused. I want to look at the camera there, but then I'm looking at you down here. I got to figure that part out.
That's okay.
But like you did the Fast and Furious trailer breakdown. Yeah. So I like to think that you've been doing the hard work that I can't do because I've just been running out of some time. So I feel like whatever you don't cover, I cover, and then vice versa. So,
I 100% agree with that because there's been days where I turn to my wife and say, I really want to make a video about this, but then I'm like, Archer's got it. He's fine. Don't worry about it. He picked up the slack on everything that I missed. So it's cool. Don't worry about it.
But the thing is, I was telling, so I don't know when this is going to drop. I did an episode with Anthony a little while ago. And it's funny. I was telling him that like, I've been slacking on all my like comic book related stuff. Like I did the What Men Want review. And then I'm going to do one on the Hunt for the Wildlings or something like that. I always butcher this guy's name. Taika Waititi. Yeah. So like he did a movie that came out like before Thor. I thought it was awesome. So I want to review that. But I haven't watched any superhero things. So that's why I need your help here. Because, we all saw the Batman teaser that came out. So before we dive into all of that, and keeping it spoiler-free for now, you saw Harley Quinn and whatever the long-ass title is for that.
AKA flipped it, so now it's just Harley Quinn, colon, Birds of Prey. Because they flipped it once, I think it released, and it wasn't doing that well. So they just straight up...
Got it. So just...
fine. I mean, Birds of Prey, whatever.
Because it's not even they're not even like the traditional Birds of Prey, right? In that show, in the movie.
No, not at all. I mean, it's very, very late that even Birds of Prey is even a name that gets mentioned. Mm-hmm. It's 100% a Harley Quinn movie, so it makes sense calling it Harley Quinn.
Yeah. So overall, I guess off the jump, was it worth you investing your time and money to watch the movie?
I'm kind of 50-50 split. I say that because was it a good time to watch? Yes. Is it worth a watch? Yes. Is it better than Suicide Squad? 1,000%. But is it something that I want to say is going to be like mind-blowing or like you have to see it? Not really. I mean, you could really wait. There's no big draw to it unless you just had such a great time with Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad that you want to revisit the character and see what she's up to. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing really that's going to draw you to the movie to have to go see it really in theaters. You can pretty much wait for it.
Gotcha. So, because, with every superhero movie, we're always talking spoilers and not spoiling things. Are there things in this movie that, like, you would have to have watched the other movies to see? Or does it actually set up a future... because the thing with Shazam and Aquaman, like I was watching Aquaman before we started this. The thing with Aquaman and Shazam, to my understanding, is they wanted to break away from the larger DCEU. So does this movie kind of do its own thing, or do you feel like it's going to still try to do one big picture as far as the DCEU goes?
It very much stands on its own. I don't feel like it was connected to other things. There's drops to... Obviously, they're in Gotham City, and like there's drops to Harley's background with the Joker. They even pretty much cut out most visuals of him in terms of person, so it's not necessarily Jared Leto's Joker if they want to swap it at any point. There's just various little name drops. We know that Bruce Wayne exists. not necessarily in the context of Batman. We know Batman does exist. Whether she knows that they're the same person or not, that we don't really know. But in terms of world building, it very much is self-contained. There's not a whole lot of pulling strings like, oh, this is going to lead to this, other than towards the end mentioning Birds of Prey, where they could go down that line. But I don't know if the characters are interesting enough based on this movie alone to have their own standalone movie with just the actual Birds of Prey minus Harley Quinn.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So the, of course, big excitement is the Batman movie. So ideally now I'm guessing that's going to be its own thing if DC keeps going with this. So all we have so far are the test screening or whatever it was of, what's his name?
Test, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, in the suit, right? So off the bat, what were your impressions of the suit, and did it remind you of anything in particular?
I think I said this in my video that I put, I don't even know how many days ago that was now. Mm-hmm. I liked a lot as the camera is like fading into like the red sort of background and kind of approaches to the camera, like when it's sort of still far enough away that you can kind of just get like not necessarily the silhouette, but like the shape of him as he's approaching. I thought it looked amazing. As he got closer and like you get to see the more like the emblem, I felt like it was fine. I'm not in love with it, but I feel like I still need to see more of the overall suit to be able to decide if I'm really loving it. The bat I felt like was okay. It felt like a little bit weird that it was missing that middle part for me of like to symbolize that it's a bat. Otherwise it's just wings.
Yeah.
But it very much reminded me of the Arkham Knight suit, or not Arkham Knight, but like the Arkham Games suit.
Yeah.
The moving plates. As more so than the Dark Knight suit, which are the plates, but they don't necessarily move. They're just literal plates so he can move. But these ones look like they're more moving with his motion and covering more of his body to protect him. What else? Then we kind of pan up to the cowl. I thought that was okay. Not a big surprise. I felt like that little collar that he had very much reminded me of Gotham by Gaslight. Not as tall, but it just very much reminiscent of that. The cowl itself, we don't see the ears. There's been a lot of different fan art that I've seen of various versions of ears as to what it could be: tall, short, similar to Ben Affleck's Batman, where it's like the more stubby ones. There's 1,000 different options right now, but we don't know what it's really going to look like. I think that's going to have a big factor into it. Cowl itself, I think, looked fine. The eyes themselves, like, had a hard time trying to figure out if it's with like the eye black, if they're going to use like some special thing over his eyes, because you couldn't see them at all. Just how that whole thing is going to look. So I think we need to see more of the actual look itself. I think that red filter made it a little bit harder to judge as to if this is something that's mind-blowing or not. Because I think the color of it, is it going to be gray? Is it going to be all black? Various things about it, how the cape's going to look. Is he going to have a belt at all? Just little nuances like that. The ears are just going to add into, am I in love with it? Or is it just going to be an okay suit?
Yeah, and that's the part I guess I like and hate, the fact that it's such a teaser that we can't see enough detail on it. But I agree a billion percent. I was saying that earlier, that what I thought of initially the second he came out was Arkham, because with Arkham, like you said, it's plated and everything moves in sync, and separates. You know, like if he's flexing his back, his lats, whatever, the chest expands, and then therefore there's gaps in there. So I definitely like that part of the suit. Yeah, definitely interesting with the lack of the center part of it. Because to me, it almost starts coming across a little more Nightwing, I think. If there's more emphasis on the wing span versus the ears and all of that. But that could all change too. Like that, we could have been seeing one version of the suit and the movie has multiple versions of the suit.
And that's something that I was kind of considering too, is going back to the symbol. It looks like, just based on my first reaction of it, that it looked like it was going to either be his like batarang or used for like the some type of weaponry that he could use, because based on how it's cut, there's like these little not finger holes, but like a divot right underneath it, almost as if you wanted to like rip it off and like use it as like a batarang or something to throw, versus being like a pure emblem, like for pretty much any iteration of Batman we've ever seen.
Right.
It looks like it's supposed to have some use other than just be his symbol.
Ooh, maybe the usage on that is going to be like Superman 2, where he takes it off and he throws it and it can wrap around you, and then all of a sudden you fall to your doom or whatever. I don't know.
Put him in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. But so yeah, that's cool. That, you know, it's a great concept that there's so much they can do with it, because they're leaving just that aspect of it being just a symbol. Like, you know, maybe that could be used because it has depth to it. It's not just like flat on there. And I think that's why a lot of people have that thought, is they're looking at it and they're like, oh, it actually looks like it disconnects, like the separation in it, which is pretty dope. So being that he's going to be like the younger Bruce Wayne type character here, do you want this? I guess a better question would be, ignoring the existing DCEU, do you want this to be another origin type story where he's building the suit, or do you want him to already kind of like have the suit? I don't remember. I don't think we've talked about that before. My memory serves me right. But what are you looking for out of this movie with the Batman that we saw in that commercial?
It's funny that you mentioned it, because before we started recording this, I saw on Instagram somebody had posted that this is supposed to be Bruce's second year as Batman. So it's not technically Batman year one.
Right.
It's basically Batman year two. So from what I've heard, I knew he was going to be very early in the stages of his role as Batman, so very inexperienced for the most part. I don't know what we're going to get to see. I hope it's more. And I've heard like the Batmobile, for example, is going to be very much more muscle car than, not muscle car, but more along that style rather than like the tumbler style or tactical that we've seen in the past a little bit here. So it's going to be more, I think they're going for more of a practical approach to Batman and kind of taking away some of the fantastic elements of it, like just the pure, I just happen to spend a lot of money and now I have this awesome thing that just works all the time. How that's going to play, I don't know. I want to see Batman makes mistakes early on, but I also want him to be fleshed out enough that I can say and look at him and say he can easily take on the villains of this movie, which are going to be Penguin, probably Riddler, and some aspect of Catwoman. Which, if I look at Robert Pattinson by himself, I don't really know. In the suit, it looks good, but there's just so many unknown factors and pieces that you have to really see it to be like, okay, I can believe it. With the suit, I feel like it looks good. I'm not in love with it, but I also keep in the back of my mind that I kind of have to think that it was listed as a camera test or something along those lines, screen test. Mm-hmm. And we may not be looking at the final product. Most likely, we're going to see a lot of those elements, sure, but it doesn't mean that that's what's going to be on the screen when it comes out next year.
No, that makes sense. So even, building on that, like this is Batman year 2. I desperately want some sort of, and by the way, let me know if my volume goes lower because I'm away from the microphone. I desperately want a Batman that has flaws, like that year 1, year 2, year 3, where even, what was the game that came out? The one that was not by the same studio that did
Arkham Origins or something like that?
Yeah, Arkham Origins. So like that one, I didn't play the full thing. I seen like some of the cinematics. And like in that, what was it?
I think I stopped playing that one too. I don't think I ever finished Arkham Origins.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't give that one a chance. And I think, that's what it was. I watched, there's a channel that does video essays, and they were saying why that's such a great game and the story's so good. And in that one, apparently, like Bruce gets like super cocky, and he's like, "Oh, I've got the suit. I'm Mr. Badass. I'm doing whatever I want." And then by running into the Joker and the Joker being introduced and the assassins, that's where he starts to learn, like, I don't have this on lock. Like, I do have flaws. I have to work on this. And Alfred's kind of like that motivator for him too. So I think we desperately need to see something like that on the screen, because we've, aside from the first, what was the first Dark Knight movie? Origins, right? What was it?
You're talking about movie or game?
The movie. Wasn't that called
Batman Begins?
Batman Begins? There you go. Like in that one, like his trial and error was very small. Like he there was the whole League of Assassins type thing, but then he pretty much got it on lock. So I think it'd be a really cool movie, like to have him with the suit, almost like Black Panther. Like he has the suit and then he kind of has to like learn how to be Batman instead of just relying on the suit so much. So do you think like they can do something like that and not overdo it by having Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman? Because immediately when I saw the same thing. Immediately when I saw that, I was thinking Batman and Robin, like too much at one time, especially for a very first movie. So do you think they can kind of juggle all of that together, or do you have like your hesitations on that?
I think that they can juggle it all together, but I'm going to always go back to Batman Earth 1 is better than Batman Year 1 in terms of like a comic story. And I think if I remember right, at the end of Batman Earth 1, either issue 1 or not issue 1, but like volume 1 or volume 2, he had some villain that he was fighting. I don't even remember what it was now. But at the very end, you know, they kind of tease like that little bit of like Riddler's asking who Batman was. So, I mean, I think that they can play it where these villains are, I don't want the villains to work together like they've done in Batman and Robin or Batman Forever, or even to some degree in Batman Returns. I feel like when they start working together, it starts adding a little bit more of that campiness and things like that. Like even you saw in the 60s show, when these villains work together, they start butting heads and then getting in each other's way, things like that. But I think they should have focused on a singular villain. And I think that they should have gone outside of the main players, gone with somebody like Clayface, or just somebody that would give him a challenge beyond just like the staples. Because I mean, I feel like Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman are all just people in their own right. There's no fantastical element. Riddler's, other than being smart and putting up puzzles, Catwoman having like the agility and like different flexibilities, styles, and things like that, being a cat burglar, and then Penguin just being kind of a normal guy who's just rich and then has a bunch of like thugs kind of thing. There's no big fantastical element for him to fight and sort of challenge. So I can say, yes, I believe this is a Batman who can be intimidating. Whereas someone like Clayface, Bane, having somebody big that they have to take on and exert themselves, but it's all supposed to be like a noir movie, I guess. So, I mean, my favorite Batman villain's always been Riddler. So having him try and solve that mystery, and, you know, he has to use his detective brain for that aspect. We can set up that and then do a more physical second movie. But I think we're just throwing everything in the pot in terms of villains. I still trust it because like the director is pretty well known and has a good background. But in terms of story, I don't know where they're really going to go with it unless the villains team up.
Why is I'm curious on that. Why is the Riddler your favorite Batman villain?
I don't know. Good question. I like puzzles and things like that.
Yep.
So like trying to figure out, you know, what's ridiculous riddle. The answer to that is going to lead me to whatever thing that I'm supposed to solve or beat you at. I always thought that it was ridiculous. Like if you ever seen like the old Batman movie, the 1966, 69, whatever year it was, movie, like they shoot up like a missile in the sky and then like just explodes, and then it's just all of a sudden just a writing in the sky, and it's some ridiculous riddle that Robin can figure out, but it's just a ridiculous answer. But it somehow leads them to that next thing. There was just some aspect about it that I liked a lot growing up. Joker's always been a great one too, but Riddler, I just like the having to stay on your toes a lot. It could really go in any direction.
I've actually never thought of who my favorite Batman villain is, because I feel like saying Deathstroke doesn't count because we like him more from his non-Batman stuff, like the Teen Titans related content.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can still say he's a villain. I mean, he was still a major player in, I think, the Arkham games and some other aspects. So I think he would still count.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that we've had different variations of Slade Wilson already, a couple different Ra's al Ghuls, but I'd be down for like something more like that being the first villain, as opposed to Penguin or Riddler, unless they have like one of those, you know, Ra's or Deathstroke as like the muscle, I guess. Although it would be interesting if they kind of copied the Batman cartoon, where like every foe is like a martial artist. Like Riddler could kick his ass, Penguin could kick his ass, that kind of thing. Did you ever watch that show, The Batman?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like, yeah, so something like that. I think that'd be interesting to see for once on screen. But if it's all a mental game, I don't know, because I feel like being Hollywood and everything, they have to have like explosions and fight scenes and whatnot.
And that's where I think some of what Riddler can do. Yes, he's not always an intimidating physical villain, because he's usually like the guy behind the computer setting things up from afar. Right. But him having that maze of whatever things that Batman has to get through in order to either get to him or whatever the case, solve whatever particular thing he needs to do, or he can use that detective mind in terms of, I don't know, whatever science thing he may want to use, or using some type of like deductive reasoning to get to that next step. He could have like very much like a Dark Knight situation where in one of his riddles, it also happens to be like a maze of bombs that could blow up a building. I don't know. So you can throw in the explosions. So, I mean, it could add up to those things, but it's just not that physical villain. So you can say, Robert Pattinson, yes, you're worthy mind-wise, but I don't see you as that intimidating person. So it's kind of hard to say. You still kind of need somebody physical to prove that he can fill the shoes.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So do you know, going back to the suit, one of the fun theories was, of course, that he's using part of the gun to make the emblem on there. Is that kind of the little like Easter egg things that you would enjoy seeing in it, like him using different parts of his life to build this bat suit? Or do you think it's kind of like a silly thing?
I think the idea of the gun being the symbol is both really cool and really creepy. Yeah. There's just something about thinking that he has that constant reminder with him. Yeah. But also, I think the tragedy of watching your parents die in front of you is enough, that melting down the gun that they were killed with, that in my mind, whoever killed his parents, which I'm sure they're going to bring up the backstory if this thing gets a sequel, is killed his parents and then just straight dropped the gun. Yeah. Because how does he have this gun? Where did he get it from? It just seems so odd because if you're going to be a detective person, then maybe if he kept it long enough and became educated, he could find out who killed his parents. Yeah. It just seems like a weird thing to kind of work through. If it's just a mystery, you're already living with that tragedy and you just don't want that to happen to anybody else. So that's why you took on this symbol and you are fighting crime. Now, having that on your chest is just kind of weird, but I like the thought behind it, but it's just, there's just something about it that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, it is. That is kind of an awkward thing because it's, I don't know. Did I send it to you? There was like how in the comics he did something like that, and it's one of those where it's like, yeah, like he could have easily like fingerprints, all sorts of like. Why get rid of that? Like having it. I feel like in some of the cartoons he's had that in the Batcave, like as its own display. Like that part I'm fine with. But if he builds it into the suit, I feel like that's too tongue in cheek. Like that's there to protect him, because then the suits get destroyed anyway. So now something that valuable to you, you're potentially going to lose at some point. I thought it was kind of weird. One of the things that was a big to do this year was the crossover on the DC CW universe, or however they want to phrase it or word it. So up to this point, we always viewed that as its own thing. Now, if you somehow have not seen that or don't know what happened in it, I would just stop watching now. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. But we're going to go into spoilers on that in 3, 2, 1. All right. So in that there's a Flash crossover that happens where we have Ezra Miller actually pop up on the show to meet the CW's version of Barry Allen. Opens a can of worms to me because it's always been separate. You had the TV universe, you had the movie universe. So my question to you now, with the Batman movie coming out, do you trust DC to actually juggle their own multiverse? And kind of, I guess the second half of that is, do you even want to see a DC like multiverse kind of thing going on?
I would love to see a DC multiverse happen on the big screen. I just feel like DC already recognizes the mistake that they made with the DCEU, where they ran into a lot of walls, a lot of pitfalls with that. I feel like the Ezra Miller popping in on Grant Gustin's Flash for the whole cross thing was almost just a reminder that, hey, we're still making Flash with Ezra Miller, because that keeps getting delayed. Directors change left and right. But we can also say we are having the multiverse, like we're aware that it can exist, that these things can happen. I don't think it would happen anytime soon on the big screen. I think that DC is now backpedaling a little bit, just focusing on singular storylines, and they can Easter egg things here and there, but I think that's the best way that they can play it, kind of keep everything separate for now. If they want to do a shared universe later, they can, but now that Batman's changed and we haven't had an official flashpoint to rectify or rewrite that history in a way that Ben Affleck's out, Robert Pattinson's in, or anything like that, I think they're just focusing on singular stories right now, and then they're going to maybe do a whole separate, if they wanted to have 2 Batmans going on at the same time, if they wanted to have the shared universe and the single story universe, something along those lines. I feel like that would be smarter. You're going to get way more coverage in terms of stories you can work on. And if you wanted to have some massive Infinity War type of thing where they're all going to have to converge against maybe Darkseid because he's trying to take over whatever multiverse may exist or whatever, then maybe you can play it in there. But I'd say focus on singular stories for now. They're just a lot better than trying to throw everything in the same pot, follow the Marvel formula that everybody has failed at except for Marvel, and just do your own thing.
Well, because even now, the scary part that Anthony and I were talking about is Marvel's already like full on multiverse, because Doctor Strange 2 is going to be about him and the multiverse. So I feel like DC had a good thing, but the reason I don't trust DC with this is they've already messed up that continuity, because I went online and I saw like all the crossover clips of the crossover itself, and they made Titans and Doom Patrol not the same Earth. Like the way they viewed it was like Earth 2 or 3 or whatever, and Titans were on whatever number that was, and Doom Patrol was on a whole nother one. So and then of course Ezra Miller Flash is on whatever. So to me, they've already kind of messed it up. It was very small. I'm sure most casual like viewers didn't notice it, but that already kind of like threw me off. And you made a great point, which was Flashpoint was supposed to be that jump off point to reset everything. So my concern there is that they're just rushing things out and not trying to build like that story as you would. But even in all of that, they introduced Green Lantern in like the very last episode of the Arrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even that then that at that moment, he's not Hal Jordan, he's not John Stewart, he's Diggle, which I don't think Diggle's ever been Green Lantern. So to me, that already ruins that continuity aspect of it. So you were saying that you would want them to do like a dark side type thing, like lead up to a big bad or whatnot. How do you even like phrase that? Would you want it to be like Marvel in the sense that the big bad is in everything? So like you see remnants of Darkseid on the CW shows, you see remnants of Darkseid on the DC app, which, as I told Anthony, you, myself, him, we're like the only 5 people. I know like 2 other people maybe that subscribe to that app. Do you want to see like the everything kind of cross over continually and then converge into one, or do you want to do like a movie where they're like, yeah, there's a multiverse, and all of a sudden, bam, Ezra Miller shows up, bam, Green Lantern Diggle shows up, that kind of thing? Does that make sense? I kind of like made a very, very long question.
I'm trying to think of your question in multiple parts here.
Yeah.
First thing, I don't even know if Diggle was even part of Arrow continuity before show. I think he was originally on the show, right?
I think so. I think he was created for the show.
Okay. And then I think him becoming a Green Lantern was just like the
fan service.
They just knew fans wanted it really, really bad. And so they were like, all right, we're just going to make him a Green Lantern at the very, very end. We're not going to follow through with the Green Lantern unless we want to do it like on HBO Max or whatever, because they're actually doing a Green Lantern thing. Maybe they could carry it over there.
Yeah.
But I want like a big bad like Darkseid. I just want to make sure I have the question right. I want a big bad like Darkseid to have some type of, have his fingers in everything. Shows, TV, I just said the same thing twice. TV, movies, things like that, right?
Right. The way that Marvel started doing that, like way back when you had like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had stuff and then movies had stuff. Like, do you want it like that?
I stopped watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a couple seasons in, so I don't remember like a Thanos influence.
There was no, they just referenced like the, whatever they called it, the snapping or something.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like it would be a good idea if they did something to be able to touch in it. Like if they could say Darkseid had some type of touch in Grant Gustin Flash universe and had more of the movie thing as well. But it has to keep, I think they have to keep the TV small so that we know that this quote unquote threat exists and is out there and could be affected. This universe could be affected by that.
Right.
But I think it needs to stay mainly in the movies in order for people to get a draw. If they can bring kind of like that end of Endgame situation with the portals and or whatever you want to call it, and
you love the sky portals. You gotta have more.
I love sky portals. Yes. Well, this one was more like sky arches or whatever you want to call it, that these guys just randomly popped up. If they just want to like have him rush in or whatever, I mean, they even kind of did that already. Have you seen the Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go?
No, I actually generally want to watch it, and I just keep putting it off.
I liked it a lot, surprisingly. They kind of did that Infinity War thing where Titans from various universes show up to fight Trigon instead of Darkseid. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and there were 2 different Trigons in that. But I don't know. I think it's just going to get overly complicated really quick to where people will find any and every possible reason why this doesn't make sense
Yeah.
and nitpick at it to death. So probably the smartest play would just to say keep them separate. And then if that big event happens and for whatever reason they need multiverse Flash from TV to come in for running around them as fast as possible to create a multiple tornado situation, fine.
Yeah.
But probably should just keep them separate for a while.
I'm trying to wait. I don't remember the answer to this question. Did you watch Young Justice or you have not?
I watched the first 1 or 2 seasons. I never watched the new season.
Oh, okay.
Because
they do that tornado thing. And I was like, wow, if you just thought of that off the top of your head, that actually happens in the cartoon.
Well, I just figured, I mean, I feel like Flash is always running around a circle to stop. That's his contribution to either running in time to fix X thing or tornado. So I figured I went with one of the two.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, they can't even Marvel and DC have done this multi-world, multiverse thing. They've done it in comic book form, and both have failed at it. They did it on the show, and people didn't like it. So I think at this point, I just don't trust them, like to just pull it off. Like I agree with you. If they're gonna do a big thing, keep it on the big screen, and then leave the TV shows aside, and then pull them in for like, hey, here's this person, here's that person. But if they try to like, run everything together and they drop hints there, I think they're really gonna get themselves in a big mess there. I don't trust it.
Yeah, I mean, from my knowledge on the CW verse or whatever you want to call it, now they technically know the multiverse exists.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess by knowing that it exists should be enough for now. But I feel like they're also going to end up using that in future seasons to some degree.
Oh wait,
possibly.
No wait, they got rid of that. That was they already screwed it up. That was the whole point. That was the whole point of Arrow becoming Spectre.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
and
you're right.
and then him and the whatever that other character the name was, like they fought. It was just a laser light show, and then in his sacrifice, he fused all the multiverses together into one, and that's why you have characters that died running into each other, and they're like, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" They're like, "Whoa, I thought you were dead," like that kind of thing. So they already got rid of the multiverse, but then the Flash thing.
And Flash shows up at the end.
Yeah.
So
they already jacked it up.
I feel like Flash is just like one of those can break all rules type of characters.
Yeah.
Where he just runs really fast and breaks through whatever barrier there may be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really know what their idea was behind that or what their plan was.
I don't trust them at all. So I guess kind of a last thing just to wrap up. And again, thanks for being on the show, and thanks to all of you who are listening right now and watching. How hyped are you for Red Sun, or have you read the book, or is this going to be like your first intro into Red Sun?
No, I'm extremely excited for it. I read it before, but I didn't really remember it. I actually reread it recently, and it felt a lot different than I read it when I was younger.
Right.
But I loved the book. So being able to watch the animated one, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
It's like DC likes to just add some weird stuff in there just to fill the time. Right. But I feel like this one might be okay because I feel like they have enough to fill 90 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever movie time for their cartoons. I feel like they have enough to work with it. I just hope that they keep the twists and turns in it in terms of like the other characters, the very end, which I thought was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited just to see what they're going to do with it and pray that they keep it by itself and not maybe have Russian Batman make out with somebody random, Russian Wonder Woman on the side, or whatever random element that they're going to add to it.
Yeah, once once that corporate money gets their sticky fingers on it, that's always the downfall with all of the animated movies. But yeah, I mean, it's my personal favorite version of Superman, because it's, you know, we're not going to spoil any of it for you guys listening or watching. Actually, you probably already stopped listening if you were cautious about spoilers. But for those of you who have not read Red Son, to me, it's the most realistic version of Superman, because he approaches that period where he's like I'm not a person. Like I am actually a god. Like I am different than all of you. And just him having that realization and going through the motions is one of the reasons why I loved it. But like you said, the twists and turns, especially the one at the end, blew my mind reading it as a kid. And yeah, when I read it again recently. So yeah, I just like yourself, man, I'm hoping they don't jack this one up, because they messed up Hush. They've messed up the other ones. That broke my heart. That broke my heart. Yeah. So.
And what's funny is that Hush was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Until I read the Injustice storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that was probably one of my favorites. I watched Under the Red Hood before I ever read it, so I liked the cartoon a little bit more. It just has a little bit more special place in my heart for that one.
Yeah.
But like, there's certain storylines that, like, I read a storyline recently. Have you ever read The Nail?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. So The Nail is just like a really weird comic about DC characters, where essentially the Kent family missed getting Clark or Superman, whatever you want to call him, because they got a flat tire. So they didn't necessarily get like his ship like crashing into him. So like they got a flat tire, so they never raised him. Yeah. Instead, like it was like the government that raised him, because, you know, his ship crashed and like he was raised by like Lex Luthor or something. I don't remember the story word for word, but that was just another crazy story. Should check that one out if you get the time.
I will add that to my list.
I hope they don't mess up. But I'm really excited to see it, and I hope we get to talk about it, because I know you're a lover of it, so I would die to know what you think of it.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, Aaron, before you leave, of course, you got to throw in your plugs. Tell everybody listening, watching, where they can find you, and all of your awesome reviews.
Okay. I'm on YouTube. I think I'm across pretty much every platform as Aaron Waller YT. The Y is T is for YouTube, obviously. But I have my Batman suit video that I had done recently. Talked about Fast 9 as I like to call it. I have upcoming videos on Birds of Prey that we talked a little bit very briefly on. Sonic the Hedgehog again is coming soon. What else? I got my Cinematically Late that I'm gonna finally sit down and dedicate time to.
Yeah.
We talked about before. But hopefully I'm getting back on track to do some more stuff. So across all platforms pretty much is Aaron Waller YT. Make sure you check me out. Subscribe. I would appreciate it. Trying to get to 300 by the end of the year. So if you can help me out, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to keep plugging that channel. You help me get to 100, we'll get you to 300, of course. Appreciate it. And yeah, that's, I guess one last thing there, when you mentioned the Fast Saga, he actually posted online for Valentine's Day about like he plays some song every year for Valentine's Day. And he mentioned that he just had meetings about another XXX and another, there was another one in there. It wasn't Pitch Black. It was something else. Oh, maybe like The Witcher or something. Wasn't like some Witcher thing he did?
Like, yeah, it was like
Hail to the King
or something like that.
Some stupidness.
It was something like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
I'm a complete hater of Vin Diesel at this point, because the dude just keeps making sequels of the same things. And he writes his own checks at this point, and he gets paid to do Groot, which is probably the easiest job you can get at Marvel and make a ton of money doing it. So I'm a hater, but only out of jealousy, not because I actually hate the content. But thank you guys for watching, for listening. All of you nerds help make this channel and Aaron's channel great. So keep sharing them, keep commenting. We want your feedback. We want your input. so that way you guys can be involved in these episodes as well. Again, see you guys in the next episode. Tons of videos come out this week, 2-minute reviews. Aaron's got a bunch of videos coming out. Check out his channel, link in the description, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.